Imagine being judged, humiliated, and looked down upon just because of how you look. That's exactly what happened to Bill, an elderly man who walked into a room full of wealth and status. But what no one expected was the shocking revelation at the end, one that would leave even the richest man in tears. Stay with me because this story will change the way you see true success. On a chilly afternoon, the grand opening of Andrew Coleman's new luxury high-rise drew a crowd of the city's elite, their laughter and chatter echoing through the lavishly decorated lobby. William Bill Dawson, a humble 76-year-old retired carpenter, stepped inside, his worn boots softly thudding against the polished marble floor. He adjusted the flannel shirt he wore, a vivid contrast to the crisp suit surrounding him. As he gazed around, he admired the intricate woodwork, marveling at the craftsmanship that reminded him of his own life's work. Each curve and joint in the building's design seemed to tell a story, just as the many homes he had built for families over the years did. Suddenly, Bill's reverie was interrupted by the sharp sound of a condescending voice slicing through the air. "What are you doing here, Dawson?" Andrew Coleman approached, a smirk plastered across his face. "I didn't think a simple carpenter like you would appreciate such refined architecture." The laughter of those around them rose like a wave, filling the air with amusement. Bill met Andrew's gaze with a warm smile, unbothered by the mockery. "I may not understand all the nuances," he replied, his voice steady, "but I know good craftsmanship when I see it." Andrew's eyes narrowed, disbelief flickering across his features. "A laborer like you wouldn't grasp the intricacies of high-end design. Why don't you stick to what you know best? Building houses for the less fortunate." His tone dripped with disdain, the crowd hanging on his every word. Bill felt a familiar warmth rise within him, the kind that came from years of working with wood and creating homes. "I've built many homes, Mr. Coleman," he said, his voice calm yet firm. "Each one holds memories, families, and dreams. That's something you might not understand." The tension in the air crackled like electricity, a palpable shift occurring as the two men stood their ground. Bill's heart swelled with pride at the thought of all the lives he had touched through his work, while Andrew's arrogance seemed to thicken the atmosphere around them. As the crowd watched, enraptured by the unfolding confrontation, Bill remained composed, embodying the very essence of humility and resilience. As the murmurs of the crowd filled the air, a commanding voice resonated, slicing through the tension like a knife. "Bill Dawson!" Jonathan Reynolds, the renowned philanthropist, stepped forward, his presence radiating authority and warmth. The room fell silent, all eyes darting between the two men as Jonathan approached Bill, a look of surprise etched on his face. "Do you remember me, Bill?" Jonathan asked, his voice thick with emotion. "You built the house I grew up in. My family was struggling back then, but your generosity changed our lives. You gave us a home, a safe haven when we needed it most." Bill's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and disbelief. I just did what I could," he replied humbly, his voice barely above a whisper. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. The initial mockery from Andrew Coleman began to dissipate, replaced by a profound respect for the man who stood before them, a man whose hands had shaped not just wood, but lives. The crowd was captivated by Jonathan's words, their amusement morphing into admiration for Bill as they began to comprehend the weight of his contributions. Andrew's smirk faltered, his arrogance cracking under the pressure of Jonathan's revelation. The laughter that once echoed around him now felt like a distant memory. He shifted uncomfortably, trying to regain his composure, but the tide had turned against him. "Bill, you are a true hero," Jonathan continued, his gaze unwavering. "It's time the world knows what you've done. Your selflessness has inspired me to dedicate my life to philanthropy. True wealth, Bill, is measured by the lives we touch, not by the money we accumulate." With every word, the crowd's admiration for Bill deepened, leaving Andrew increasingly isolated. Bill stood quietly, absorbing the gravity of Jonathan's acknowledgement, his heart swelling with nostalgia and humility. As the applause began to ripple through the audience, Bill felt the warmth of their appreciation wash over him, but he remained grounded. "I never sought recognition for my work," he said, his voice steady but soft. "I only hope to make a difference in someone's life." Jonathan nodded knowingly, his eyes glistening with sincerity. "And you have, more than you can imagine." The crowd leaned in, eager to hear more, while Andrew stood there, a mere shadow of his former self, grappling with the realization of his misjudgment. The room buzzed with a newfound energy, one that celebrated kindness and humility over wealth and status. Bill's story was no longer just a tale of a carpenter. It was a testament to the impact one individual could have on the world around them. Jonathan stepped closer to Bill, his voice thick with emotion. "You may not remember me, Bill, but I'll never forget you. That house you built for my family, when it wasn't just a structure. It was a home filled with love and warmth during one of the toughest times of our lives." He paused, looking around at the crowd, who were now hanging on his every word. "Your kindness inspired me to dedicate my life to philanthropy. You taught me that true wealth is measured by the lives one touches, not by material possessions." The crowd listened intently, their expressions shifting from amusement to admiration. Bill stood humbly, absorbing the acknowledgement while a wave of nostalgia washed over him. Memories flooded back, the scent of sawdust, the laughter of children playing in the yard he had built, families thriving in homes he crafted with love. If this story is already making you feel something, imagine how many others need to hear this lesson. Hit the like button right now so more people can see this powerful message. And tell me in the comments, have you ever seen someone being judged unfairly? Let's spread kindness together. Andrew's bravado faded as he struggled to regain his composure. The power of Jonathan's testimony resonated deeply, and he could feel the shifting tide of public opinion. "This is ridiculous," Andrew muttered under his breath, though his voice lacked the confidence it had earlier. He glanced around, noticing the crowd's admiration for Bill, which only deepened his sense of isolation. "Do you hear that, Andrew?" Jonathan turned to him, his expression stern. "That laughter, that applause? It's for Bill, not you. Your earlier remarks were not just insensitive. They were a glaring reminder of what true success isn't." The tension escalated in the room, a palpable divide forming between the two men. The audience watched, captivated by the unfolding drama, some holding their breath in anticipation of the next words. Andrew's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "I was just making a joke, Jonathan. You can't expect me to take everything so seriously," he retorted, but the words fell flat. The crowd murmured, the once jovial atmosphere now heavy with the weight of Jonathan's words. "Success isn't about wealth, Andrew. It's about the impact we have on others," Jonathan replied, his voice steady but passionate. "And Bill here? He's changed lives, including mine. That's something you'll never understand." The audience nodded in agreement, their loyalty unmistakably shifting towards Bill, who stood quietly. The humble carpenter humbled no more. As Jonathan stood before the crowd, the magnitude of his announcement hung in the air like an invisible weight. "I have purchased the land where Bill's childhood home once stood," he declared, his voice unwavering yet filled with emotion. "I intend to rebuild it in his honor, a monument to his legacy." Bill's heart raced. Tears welled in his eyes, shimmering like dew on early morning grass as he struggled to process the significance of Jonathan's words. This wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was a testament to the life he had lived and the lives he had touched. The audience erupted into applause, a thunderous wave of appreciation washing over Bill. He felt their admiration like a warm embrace, yet it overwhelmed him. He turned slightly, glancing at Andrew, who stood frozen, mouth agape in disbelief, grappling with the realization of the depth of his previous mockery. The weight of the moment shifted, and suddenly, the laughter and scorn that had once filled the room felt like distant echoes. "Thank you, but I don't need anything in return," Bill stammered, his voice thick with emotion as he attempted to deflect the attention back to Jonathan. "I did what I could, and that was enough." The humility in his tone resonated deeply with the crowd, who saw not just a carpenter but a man whose heart was as sturdy as the homes he built. "Bill," Jonathan interjected, his eyes ablaze with conviction, "this isn't merely about you. It's about recognizing the importance of compassion and community. Your selflessness has inspired more than just me. It's time the world sees that." The room fell silent, captivated by the profound truth in Jonathan's words. Andrew fidgeted, his arrogance stripped away, revealing a man grappling with the consequences of his earlier actions. He had underestimated the power of kindness, and the realization was sinking in like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples throughout the crowd. As the applause began to fade, Bill took a deep breath, his heart swelling with a mix of pride and humility. He felt the warmth of the crowd surrounding him, yet a part of him remained uncertain. Did he truly deserve this honor? The accolades felt foreign, and he was torn between the joy of recognition and the weight of his modesty. "Bill," a voice broke through his thoughts. It was Emma Sullivan, the young journalist, who had been observing the unfolding drama with keen interest. "You've spent your life building homes for others. You've given so much of yourself. It's time you let others give back to you. Embrace this moment." Her words were encouraging, a soft nudge towards acceptance. He looked into her eyes, seeing genuine belief reflected back at him. "I just want to be remembered for the right reasons," he murmured, vulnerability creeping into his tone. Emma smiled softly. And you will be. Your humility is your strength, but don't shy away from the love and respect you've earned. It's okay to accept it. Bill took another deep breath, feeling the tension in his chest ease a bit. He glanced back at Jonathan, who was now engaging with the audience, sharing the story of how Bill's work had changed lives. As Jonathan spoke, Bill's heart swelled with gratitude. Perhaps, just perhaps, this was a moment to embrace rather than resist, a chance to recognize the impact of his life's work. But as he stood there, the applause still reverberating in his ears, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real journey was just beginning. Bill stood amidst the applause, the warmth of the crowd contrasting sharply with the chill of his self-doubt. Memories flooded his mind, of the families he had helped, the houses he had built, and the laughter that once filled the homes he crafted. Yet, as he absorbed the gratitude radiating from the audience, an unsettling thought gnawed at him. Did he truly deserve this recognition? Mr. Dawson, a voice broke through his reverie. It was Emma Sullivan, the young journalist who had been capturing each moment. Her eyes sparkled with sincerity. You've done so much for so many. This is your moment. You should embrace it. Bill glanced at her, his brow furrowed. I just did what I thought was right, he replied, his voice low. I never expected any accolades. It feels overwhelming. Emma stepped closer, her tone encouraging. That humility is what makes you special. But you have to understand, recognition is not just about you. It's about the impact you've made. You've changed lives, Bill. He looked out at the sea of faces, many of whom were nodding in agreement. Their eyes reflected admiration, not pity. But I'm just a carpenter, he murmured, almost to himself. No, Emma countered firmly. You're much more than that. You're a mentor, a father figure, and a source of inspiration. It's okay to let them honor you. You've earned it. As Bill absorbed her words, Andrew Coleman emerged from the shadows, his presence a stark reminder of the condescension he had faced earlier. I see the crowd has found a new favorite, Andrew sneered, attempting to regain the spotlight. But let's not forget, this is just a facade. What real substance does Bill have? The crowd shifted uncomfortably, their loyalty palpable. Bill felt a rush of indignation. Emma's encouraging words echoed in his mind. He had nothing to prove to Andrew. He took a deep breath, standing taller as he faced the real estate mogul. I may be just a carpenter in your eyes, Andrew, but I've built more than houses. I've built homes and communities. That's something you wouldn't understand. Andrew scoffed, but the disdain from the crowd was evident. Bill felt a surge of empowerment, realizing that their respect was what truly mattered. He turned back to Emma, who smiled proudly, her faith in him igniting a flicker of belief within himself. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of recognition and camaraderie, Bill began to understand that perhaps, just perhaps, he was worthy of the honor that was being bestowed upon him. As the applause began to fade, Jonathan stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of sincerity. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, capturing the crowd's attention once more. I am proud to announce the establishment of a scholarship in Bill Dawson's name. This scholarship will support aspiring carpenters and builders from underprivileged backgrounds, ensuring that the love and skill Bill has shared throughout his life continues to inspire the next generation. The room fell silent, processing the profound implications of Jonathan's words. Tears filled the eyes of many in the audience, including Bill, who stood motionless, his heart swelling with a mix of joy and disbelief. I don't know what to say, he finally managed, his voice trembling. I never thought my work would mean so much to anyone. You've taught us all that true craftsmanship goes beyond the wood and nails, Jonathan replied, stepping closer to Bill. It's about building lives, families, and communities. Your humility and dedication have changed lives, Bill, and now it's time for us to honor that legacy. Andrew, who had been watching the exchange with growing discomfort, felt the tide turn completely against him. The crowd, once entertained by his arrogance, now rallied around Bill as if he were a beacon of hope. He swallowed hard, his bravado fading faster than the applause. This is ridiculous, he muttered under his breath, but the murmurs of disapproval from onlookers drowned him out. You don't get it, do you, Andrew? Emma Sullivan interjected, stepping into the fray. Bill is the real success story here. He has built more than just houses. He has built dignity, respect, and community. Her words resonated deeply, leaving Andrew floundering in the face of undeniable truth. As the event began to wrap up, Bill found himself enveloped in a warm embrace from Jonathan. Thank you for honoring my past, he said, his voice choked with emotion. I never considered myself a mentor. I just did what I loved. Exactly, Jonathan replied, smiling through his own tears. What you loved has impacted so many lives, including mine. Remember, true wealth lies not in the buildings we construct, but in the love and lives we touch. The two stood together, surrounded by friends and supporters, each reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Bill finally understood that his life's work had far greater significance than he had ever imagined, and as the crowd began to disperse, a powerful message lingered in the air, a reminder that compassion and generosity are the true measures of success. If this story touched your heart, then you belong to a special group of people who still believe in respect and humility. Don't miss out on more stories like this. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell. And if you know someone who needs to hear this lesson, share this video with them. Let's remind the world that true worth isn't measured by money. It's measured by the lives we touch.